So we just talked about Lillian Orogbu and the reps committee on the FCT saying there is infrastructure deficit as far as education, schools, and the need to involve the people. Talked about inter-hotspots and all of that. Now, the FCT minister had people protesting, and what he's saying is, listen, these guys were paid. We're used to these things. What is important for him is to deliver on President Tinubu's mandate. How is President Tinubu's mandate different from what the FCT committee, the reps committee on FCT just listed, which are a major part of the conversation brought to this one?
I think what is going on here is a typical Nigerian situation where we do governance by name dropping. So, you know, when somebody speaks about a governor or a president, he calls his name in full and lists all the post-nominal designations, GCFR, and so on and so forth, in order just to... But I think there is much more to this that I find really, really troubling. It's the minister's disposition, the utter disdain for contrary opinion, the conclusion that, oh, we know this, we know. And so when you say, oh, we know these things, we'll get paid, the question anybody will ask is, how many people have you paid yourself to conduct marches and protests like this? I think that anybody who is in government and is serious about governance will pay attention to public opinion. Nobody has an exclusive or nobody has a monopoly of knowledge. So even when you do your planning, if people object to it, you should listen to them, find out the basis for their objections, and then also listen. Sometimes you could profit by just doing that. So I don't think it's enough for the minister to say, oh, he's so busy that he doesn't listen to contrary opinion, which is what he has said now. I think that he ought to listen. I'm sure even President Tinubu himself would be the one to encourage him to listen to, you know, contrary opinion. Because sometimes government take decisions. We've seen in this country, government take decisions, and those decisions in the end are reversed on the basis of protest. So if you say you don't listen to protest, then I don't know how you're going to carry out governance. But I think that whether we want to admit it or not, there's a lot of work to be done in the FCT. I mean, the last time it seemed, at least by popular acclaim, the last time it seemed that there was any kind of governance that took place at all in the FCT, by popular demand now, by the vast majority of public opinion now, it seems that the last time any serious activity took place in the FCT in terms of governance was during Nasiru El-Rufai's time as minister. Even Wike himself admitted that much when he took over. I mean, he all but admitted that he was going to follow the template of Nasiru El-Rufai, whatever that would mean, whether that would mean demolishing buildings, because that was also one of those things Nasiru El-Rufai was known for, apart from, you know, the almost manic attempt to sort of restore the Abuja master plan, the mythical Abuja master plan that everybody talks about. But I think there has to be a reset in the minister's disposition towards governance. And this is not just to him alone. I think it affects all other ministers. We've seen instances where ministers treat, you know, you saw there was the one about a minister who locked out his staff because he arrived in office before them. Yeah, we are not condoning lateness, but then there's a way you conduct public office. It's not your private business. You're just there for a while. You'll be gone tomorrow. I think somebody has to tell the minister that, look, it is these same people he is casting aspersions on. They are the ones, in fact, they're the ones who confer legitimacy on whatever it is he's doing. So this kind of disposition, this kind of haughty, arrogant attitude, dismissive attitude will not take him very far in the discharge of his responsibilities.
On a lighter note, I make bold to say the last time it had an effect on government decision was a little less than 9 years ago.
The Occupy Nigeria protest, I imagine.
Thank you, and God bless you. Okay, so but beyond that, looking at what Mr. Wike's response to the protests, let's not forget he said, like you have also said, the last time any effective work by way of infrastructure was done in Abuja, in the Federal Capital Territory, was done by Nasir El-Rufai. And one of the first statements the current FCT minister made when assuming office was that he was going back the Abuja master plan to ensure that the city is what it ought to be as it is on that document. Hence, proceeding with demolishing of structures. I mean, if a certain location is supposed to be an area or designated for a school, why do we have residential buildings there? Why do we have nightclubs and bars there? Is there anything wrong with him carrying out those demolitions? Because it's also a major issue in the protest. You know, we didn't see a lot of those videos on any mainstream media, but I'm sure you saw those videos. And, you know, they complained about demolitions. They accused him of land grabbing. They were upset about his forceful nature. And of course, like I've said, his tone of speak, you know, sounds like he absolutely doesn't care what anybody wants to say. He will do what he wants to do. And like you said, spent on delivering the president's mandate, whatever that is. But let's take him to task on demolitions and Abuja master plan. Is there anything wrong if these demolitions have to be done for proper work to be carried out by way of infrastructural development?
Well, the thing is, I wasn't even interested in the details as such of the protest, but his attitude towards it, the way he dismissed it without even, I mean, you need to listen. Even if people are uttering piffle, you really need to listen to them first to reach that conclusion, and not to claim that, oh, you didn't even listen to them at all, because whatever it is they are doing, they were simply influenced by someone who has paid them. Now, to the matter you raised with regard to demolition, yeah, if somebody has committed a wrong, I mean, somehow, if this has happened over a long period of time, you now ask yourself, if you want to go back and demolish all the buildings that are out of step with the master plan, you may find that you may be pulling down nearly every structure in the town. So sometimes you also will need to rework the master plan. It's okay, so far, not anymore. Yeah, we've bastardized the master plan sufficiently as it is. Now let us look for ways to now, you know, rather than pull down all the structures, let us look for a way to rework the master plan. Because, I mean, if you pull down some of these people, if you go to them, some of these people who have set up structures where they are not supposed to, if you go to them, they have all the papers, all the relevant papers issued by...
Interesting.
Yeah, so where do you start? Will you then go back to those officials who issued those permits and then take them on? So in some cases, there are times when you look at the situation. Just to give one example, again, I digress, but pardon me. Nigeria couldn't meet its quota with OPEC because of the activities of agitators in the Niger Delta. Well, you could call that criminality. As a matter of fact, that's textbook economic sabotage. Now, rather than confront it that way as a law and order issue, the government sat back and said, wait a second, we can actually enter into negotiations with these people, grant them amnesty, train as many of them as possible, get them to lay down their arms, and then we'll also make money, because it will mean that operations will go on completely, and then, you know, we'll meet our quota. So I think at some point you have to balance that. It seems to me like something done in precipitate haste when you say, oh, because it's like maybe that's what they call the low-hanging fruit. You just go for demolition because that's it. But it's not the only option. There are other ways. You could rework the master plan. You could look for ways, pull down a little, some structures to make way here and there, but not to simply say, oh, you want to. That seems to me like something too dramatic.